Hey guys, I am changing the staff meeting format for this week just because I realized when I looked at my calendar that I have another meeting, another mandatory meeting I have to be at, and I will not be able to be here. I am mandatory meeting out my mind this week. I have like 16, I swear. I have so many meetings going from so many different directions. But this is where we're at today. So I have one in the morning, I have one in the afternoon, I have one tomorrow morning. So I've just got a ton of meetings this week. So if you aren't finding me this week, that is because I am truly in so many meetings. A lot of administrative stuff this week. Just forgive me for that. I'm just going to capture a few of the highlights for you guys. It should be brief, but I wanted to make sure that I was catching you up because I know some people were anxious and wanting to see what happened, such as in the audit. So I will tell you, we did complete the first part of the audit. That was completed on Thursday. Overall, it went pretty good. We did have a really good position. So she did not review a ton of documents. She only reviewed a few files. So that went pretty well. She did note that we had a lot of missing docs with regards to missing medical reports, missing dentals, missing grade cards, things like that. So again, it's just really critical that we get those documents and we get them into the file. Case managers, when you're out there monthly, we want you to gather those, find out when they've been to the doctor, dentist, everything else the last time. Licensing specialists, the same, in case you've been there when somebody else wasn't there. Gathering those docs and making sure that they get back to our files. They need to be in the EHR. I want to say they can be in the big file too, but the big file's going away. We're not going to have paper files anymore. So they need to make it to the EHR. So we need to figure out, sorry, my cat's on my lap, how we get them into the EHR. So I did actually just show Brianna how to do it. Case managers, you know how to do it. Make sure those things are in the proper files or proper sections of the file and make sure that they get there. So that's just a really critical thing. In this case, most of the missing docs were actually in August, and it was just in September. So she was okay that they weren't in the file, and the foster parents were both home, and both were able to take a picture of it and send it to me right away. So I was able to upload it to a document and share it. So I don't think it's going to ding us this time. However, we need to make it a matter of practice because 2 of 2 files was missing those documents, and they were missing them going back as well. So make sure that we're keeping track of that. As well as the releases. She did not note that the release was missing, but it was. So let's make sure that we're getting those releases into the file where they need to be. I will be continuing with the audit process of the files and looking through each and every one and making sure that they are reviewed properly, and if anything's missing, then that it's put in there. And in fact, I'd like to we're doing cross peer reviews with the therapist already, but I think that's something we might institute with case management as well down the line, but stay tuned for that. It really is part of our CQI. We should have been doing it all along. It's an extra tool to help us to kind of find missing documents and things like that. So, but I'm not ready to act on that yet, but I will be moving on that very soon. And we actually should have been doing that. So for therapists, with regards to the audit, there was one thing that came up. It is not a violation, meaning it was something we added new, so it wasn't on the expectation list. But there's been, as you know, a big move for QPI and keeping biological families involved and everything else in the cases. So one of the things that's also been a big initiative is how many children are getting separated and visitations that are not being taking place with the families, like kids that are missing out on visits and stuff like that, or them not being able to get a good, clear picture as to where the siblings are. So in our placement section in the in-depth, where it talks about the placements of the children, two things. One, they're asking us to make sure that that's detailed. There's a couple of spots where people are writing like, has had several foster placements prior. Now, you don't have to list out each and every foster parent unless you have that. But if you have that data, we want to record as much as we can. And it could just be, 2 homes in Clearwater or 3 area homes, but just enhancing that section. But they also want you to know in that placement section, does the child have any siblings? And if they do have siblings, where are those siblings? So she has 3 siblings that are residing with her in this home. She's got 2 siblings that are at home. She's got 1 in a foster home. Whatever information you have, if you don't have any information, then that's what you document. There's no information known as to where the siblings are or when they're visiting. So she'd also like to see us note in that placement section if they're visiting routinely, if they're separated. Additionally, where the parent lives. So the parent lives in Clearwater, and they're visiting with the parent routinely. So we have this section, and for the most part, typically they were listing, the child, has been in foster care for 9 months or has had 14 different placements or whatever that is. But let's make sure that we're really enhancing that section. That's what they're really highlighting currently, as they're trying to track trends in children's placements, as well as trends in placements that are stopping them from visits. So I'll let you guys tackle that in your therapist meeting, and as to the best way to set that up with the prompts and enhance that. Some kids it won't be relevant. Remember, this particular section is only relevant to children that are in foster homes, that are dependency. So, but it is good practice. It's good practice, period. But a lot of them are community, and so we won't need that for community kids. That's not part of the Medicaid guidelines. Which brings me to part 2. We will be having this audit. She'll be going this week to review the employee files, backgrounds, CQI records, supervision logs, things like that. So that will be happening this week at administration, and that will be the end of the first audit. We do get audited 3 times at least, and they do tend to come back to back. So this was licensing for DCF. From there, we'll have Medicaid, and we will have FSS once they get their ducks in order. I don't know when that's happening. It typically happened this time with Eckerd, but with the new change, we'll just have to kind of stand by and wait for that. Which brings me to thinking it through. It's also really important that we remember that the DCF guidelines and stuff like that. So community, we don't have to have their medical records for community kids. We don't have to have their dental records for community kids. And I think that's what's happening is people are getting confused on kids, and that's why they're not gathering them. So it's really important that you understand that DCF regulates all of our dependent children, and dependent children require those through a DCF standard. It's not a Medicaid standard. All of our children in our foster homes should have a TCM. I'm going to be looking into that and seeing if they do. And if they don't, making steps to ensure that they do all have that coverage. If for any reason they don't qualify, that might be a baby or something like that, then we would have the licensing specialist take a little more advanced role in making sure that we keep up with the records for those kids. That was, again, the protocol. However, we've had a lot of changes since we went over that protocol last. So I don't know that Jaquel and Brianna were even part of that. And certainly we've added Sandy and Shanice. So that's something just to keep in mind, that all of our foster homes should have a TCM, and every child in the foster home should have a TCM, and those records would be gathered by them and or the specialist if there was some rare exception. But that's where we talk about that teamwork thing too. So if that, typically if it's a sibling and we have a little one in there and we have a big one in there, then I'm going to ask that case manager that has the bigger one to gather the records for the little one, since they're already doing it. So those are things we really got to make sure that we're tackling case by case and talking about who's doing what for those particular files. So I didn't see that in this case, but I know that's come up in the past. So keep that in mind. I'm also going to ask you guys, in light of we know we talked about last week the enormous amount of documents that were missing, some that were duplicated, things like that. So moving forward, now that I have gathered all of those documents and they have all been uploaded, which was quite a while to do all of those, I'm going to ask each and every TCM that to continue your path of getting those records right away. If you do not have them, if you're not getting those records, I want you to keep a clear list of what is missing on the dates that it's missing. So Johnny's missing this and Janie's missing that. It's on this date and this is what I need. And we need each of you to keep a very clear record as to what that is. And then we'll have to create one consistent list that lists everything that's missing from every person. So part of the confusion again is different people going different ways to gather things and being given to different people, and we need one path right? Everybody keeps track of what's missing and we put it on one list. And then maybe once a month, I'm thinking the beginning or the end of the month, we look at anything that's missing for this month and get that taken care of right away, so that we have that one path, and that should remedy things. And if it doesn't, then we'll figure out what else we need to do. So I'm going to ask you guys to please track that, and maybe even note on there on your one list, like made 3 requests, made 4 requests, who you made those requests to, so that we can reduce the back and forth of I sent that or whatever that is that goes with that. The party with the American Legion went well. Thank you, Philip and Jaquel, for coming and joining us. I know not all of you could. I'm not saying there's anything those that didn't, but it was nice to see the 2 of you that came, and nice to see you interacting with our families and stuff. So that was really nice. We did have several foster families that came, the Wright, Vetter, Coriano, Stevens. I'm missing somebody. Miss Bookman came, so it was really nice, and some siblings got to see each other that were from different homes, so that was also really nice to see that interaction. Really beautiful to see Coria interact with her brother and her brother with her, so really nice thing. Mary, who organizes the Legion, sponsors everything, organizes it. She is actually going to be moving to Tallahassee. She's promising that she's still going to follow through with Christmas this year, and she's hoping to move into the future with it. But we all know what happens when you move 5 hours away. That makes it pretty challenging. So we'll want to keep our eyes and ears open for additional processes. But she's promising that they'll be able to try to work out something for Christmas this year. Another couple changes are just updates. The Florida Certification Board, I got the pleasure, this is another one of those systems that's changing. We've had meetings, so I spent 3 hours, and Brianna jumped in and helped me too with a part of that to be my second ears, because it was during the audit. But that site is changing, so that affects only those of us that are licensed. Okay, so if you are licensed, then they are changing to a new process, a new software type of thing that's going to be happening with the way certifications happen. So I'm going to have to set up a parent account, a new parent account, and then I'm going to be attaching to everybody that we have underneath us with that parent account. That parent account will then let me pay for your fees and things like that as they come up, and then it also tracks your hours. So if Sandy's attached to us, when she's putting in hours in her training, it's going to be automatically sent to under us, basically. Now it is transferable. So if Sandy worked for Sequel before she came to us, it's still her stuff. What happens is Sequel has to unattach themselves and we have to attach ourselves, and then you get to pick up from there. So I may be contacting some of you. I don't know what it's going to be this week because I'm so freaking busy this week. But as soon as I'm able to set up that parent account, and I'll be attaching to everybody. They say the ones that were already attached, so they should have just transferred over. I haven't been able to get in there and look, but those were clean. And by clean, I mean they should have already been where they were supposed to be. They should be there. If not, I will be identifying who's missing and then trying to figure out how I track them in the system. They are asking no one to set up a second account. They said it makes it way harder if you set up a second account. So I'm going to try to find you first. Maybe your tracking numbers or whatever. If you have not been placed in, if you're not in the system yet, and we'll work with you directly, then you'll enroll. But apparently everybody, even if you were already with the Florida Certification Board, you will have to create a new account in the new system. And this has something to do with making it better for you to be able to search things and not have to contact them and some other things like that. So regardless, even if you came over attached to us, you're going to have to fill out a new application or whatever the form is, basically identifying yourself within that new system. And it also sets up your security stuff. So like you can reset your codes and stuff like that. So everybody, once I get this parent account set up, will have to fill out that form again. I will let you know when, so don't worry about it yet. I'm going to get the parent account and see who's underneath it and how to track everybody down. And then I'll send everybody out to be able to do that. And again, that's going to allow us to pay for your dues. If there's a problem with that or something doesn't work like it's supposed to, because that's just the way things happen, and you are having to self-pay, we will then reimburse you. So don't worry that if there's a problem that's how that's going to work. I've got 4 minutes left. Last but not least, we'll be